My name is Mehr Sher, and I've been a broadcast journalist in Pakistan for about 6 years now. Right now, I'm talking from New York. I'm speaking from New York. I've just moved here for graduate school, but I've had a very wonderful and vibrant 6 years in Pakistan, and I'm very, very fortunate for all of the opportunities that I've had. And most of you may have seen me with Dr. Shahid Masood, but my career started actually a year and a half or 2 years before that. I started with PTV World English. So English is my home base, you could say, in broadcast journalism.
Like 6 years ago, you started your career and you came back from the US to Pakistan. If we go back to we would go back 6 years, the kind of Pakistan we have now, it was a bit different at that time. It wasn't as stable as it is now. So, were you very skeptical about coming back to Pakistan? What was going into your head at that time? I mean, जब मैं वापस आया था मेरे से तो पूछा था पागल हो वापस आ गए हो. So, yeah.
Okay. Actually, maybe it was different. Because I had come like a year before as well. By the time I was 18, मेरा पाकिस्तान आना थोड़ा frequent हो गया था. So I had a bit more of an interaction. Only thing is कि मैं कभी रही नहीं हूँ यहाँ पे like since I was 5 years old. I was born in Pakistan actually. I was born in Peshawar, and my family immigrated before like a few years before I turned 5. So I've been in the US for quite some time. Going to Pakistan was actually divine intervention. It wasn't really a part of my plan. I had just come for summer vacation, and us waqt I was in Peshawar. And those people who know me know that I'm a very hyperactive person. I can't even take a vacation as a vacation. So I was looking for an internship in Islamabad for my journalism career ambitions. I just graduated from university, so I wanted to get some experience यहाँ पे. So mainly it was very different. I wasn't too worried about the situation in Pakistan because as a journalist, you have to be adaptable, you have to be flexible, and those are the traits that kind of help you with your career. So I just jumped right in, and that internship turned into a job opportunity. और इसके बाद I never looked back. So.
How was the experience of working at the PTV? Because अगर हम comparison करें PTV का with private broadcaster, it's kind of a bit laid back, slow, and still trying to catch up with the modern broadcast journalism per se. Uh, if we compare it with the national broadcaster of different other countries, something like BBC, it's still lagging behind. Uh, how has been your experience, and what have you learned out of it?
I think PTV obviously is an esteemed institution in Pakistan. It goes way back. सबसे पहला जो broadcast station था, that was PTV. So it's historic in that sense, and PTV had such a golden age as well. The content that came out back in the day, back then PTV was very with the times, and doing a lot of work जो कि आज तक I think we still enjoy, we still have memories with. So in that sense, when I was going to PTV, I went with that vision of the golden age. And the things that my mom used to say about PTV growing up. So I went with that prestige. Obviously, when I worked there, you're right. It is a bit of a slower organization. Private media is different because competition बहुत ज़्यादा होती है, ratings होती हैं, and it's a more cutthroat environment to be in. PTV, because it is a bureaucratic organization, it is slower, and a lot of the people are holding positions that are more permanent, so they're more secure. So there's less of a not to sound dismissive of the environment, but there's less of a hunger or drive to compete with each other. In my case, it was different because obviously I was not a permanent employee. I was a temporary employee. I was on a sort of a daily contract, you could say. So maybe I came in with all these like ideas or like all these creative ideas, things I wanted to do, shows I pitched within a few months of being there, and content I pitched. And you're right, it was very difficult to even get a nod for those ideas, let alone approval. So most of the ideas that I pitched at the time did not get approved because, as you rightly said, PTV did not move with the times. Now things have been changing, but I think it still entails a lot of those bureaucratic sort of processes that cause a lot of delays and backlogs, and then eventually you're just behind on the media landscape in this country, and I mean in the world overall. To add one more thing, sorry. For me personally, since you asked like how the environment was, um, in the beginning, when OS Toheed Saab was the head of PTV, it was a different environment because he kind of brought a bit of structure with him, being a journalist himself. And for me, he was actually the one who saw potential in me and hired me. So at that time, mainly it was a bit of a nurturing environment. After his departure and when he left that organization, things did change for me. Because again, OS Toheed sir came with like a bit of a private media mentality. So there was more opportunity. But after he left, things did change quite a bit. But for me, I would say PTV was my education. It was a playground, and I've just learned a lot over there. Like my basic education about the media, about broadcast, was at PTV. And there is no doubt that PTV is still a reputable organization in the country.
You started off with PTV in English and then transitioning to the Urdu media. Uh, Having lived in US for like almost whole of your life, how difficult was that? Still, there is a hint of an accent when you speak. So, how welcoming was Urdu media for you, and how difficult or easy was that transition? Any interesting incident that you would like to share?
Oh, very interesting incidents. If I were to list those incidents, I think your entire interview would entail only those incidents. Um, yes, that's true. Urdu is not my first language. My first language is Pashto, right? And then after Pashto, it's been English. And English to me has also become a very native language. It's the language I think in, I write in, I speak in, and it comes most naturally to me. Urdu was obviously a challenge for me. Saab was aware of this when he hired me. But again, I think I was lucky with all the opportunities I got, because every opportunity I got, those people that were already present there saw some sort of potential in me, which I would like to think now, looking back, I reached. And with Dr. Saab, I think he knew that this is a girl who will work very hard and who will beat the odds of the language barrier even. And so I did that. I had to work very, very hard. In the start, it was very difficult for me because people were saying a lot of mean things. And for me, it was like overnight, recognition with Dr. Saab. So it's overnight recognition mein ye bhi hota hai ki, people don't know you and they start making assumptions about you. So just very nasty comments. And for months there was like these conspiracies on the internet. People were posting about, Dr. Saab has been embedded with the CIA, it has infiltrated the program, this and that, all sorts of nonsense. But my Urdu was a challenge for me in the beginning. But I think 6 months into the show, I had really worked hard enough to where I had a pretty strong working fluency. I could actually speak well. And also, even for a native Urdu speaker, keeping pace with Dr. Saab is difficult because Dr. Saab goes through ideas very quickly and his command over Urdu is obviously very excellent. So I was able to keep pace with him, and I think that for me is an achievement. I worked very hard on it. Abhi, I can speak Urdu when it comes to political discourse, but अगर मैं कोई groceries लेने चली जाऊँ, for instance, तो थोड़ा सा accent मेरा ज़्यादा आ जाता है, क्योंकि I've worked so much on the political aspect of it that I can have that intellectual discourse, but if you send me in a bazaar to buy something, they will automatically know that she is an English speaker. So that's a challenge still.
Okay. As you said, working with Dr. Saab was kind of a claim to fame because you moved from English audience to Urdu audience, and obviously the scale is larger over there. And then you
Much
suddenly,
larger.
yeah, and then you suddenly took a break in 2018. Why did that happen, and what was in your mind at that time? Even you made a video about it, that why you left the show. But if you would like to talk us through it again.
So yeah, you're very right. My claim to fame was with Dr. Shahid Masood, and I'm very, again, honored and fortunate for that, because apart from the recognition that came with it, in the beginning, I won't say the recognition was good recognition. I got very bad recognition, a lot of jokes and memes and, very nasty things. But I mean, I have very thick skin, so I didn't focus on that. For me, my daily agenda was Urdu par kaam karo, work on like figuring out like all the sort of events of the day, knowing the nuts and bolts, so that when I sit in that chair across from Dr. Saab, I know exactly what's going on, and if not, I can fill in wherever he's missed something, or vice versa. So for me, my daily schedule was so packed, I didn't have time to feel anything about nasty comments. And I think over time, that recognition turned into respect, which I am very, very grateful for. And to this day, people still remember me. And for me, I consider that an achievement, because since I've left, there has been another host, and there have been excellent hosts before I joined. So people still remember me for whatever reason. I think that for me is very humbling. So yeah, definitely. My time with Dr. Saab was a very crucial time. I learned a lot about politics in Pakistan. I learned a lot about South Asia. Dr. Saab for me was, you could say PTV was like my preschooling in media and Pakistan and governance. But Dr. Saab was more like my elementary, middle, and high school. So I learned a lot with him. Even off screen, like the conversations that I would have with Dr. Saab were very, very, very interesting and built my knowledge base a lot. So that was a very educational time period for me as well in my career. Why did I leave the show? Well, at that time, I felt that the role that I had with Dr. Saab, I had reached my learning curve. So at that time, I felt that, I do have command over Urdu. I can do this role very well now. It's no longer as challenging for me. So for me, throughout my career, whenever I have left any position or opportunity, I have left it after fulfilling it and feeling like, okay, now I want to learn something else. So at the time when I left, I just wanted more time to explore other mediums. And I explored the digital medium. I did write a few columns here and there. Also, a lot of people don't know this, but I have a production company, which I co-founded with one of my best friends who I met at PTV. He's also an American Pakistani. So we have a production company together. I was focusing on that. And after a few months of my break from Dr. Saab, which was just a break from the screen, but not a break from work, I was doing a lot more creative work at that time. So I was actually able to work on a project. If I was working with Dr. Saab or any other job, I would not have had the opportunity to do that. I worked on my first independent documentary, which I produced and directed. So that was the most fulfilling journalistic work that I've ever done. And it was an investigative journalistic documentary. So that was more so the reason for that break from broadcast journalism. I was just trying to find my footing and kind of recalibrate and reconfigure what it is that I want to do from here onwards and where I want to go in my career next. But Dr. Saab is like family. Like I said, he's my primary middle and high school education. So I'm still in touch with him, and there's still so much that I learned from him to this day.
What was the idea behind it? What gave you the idea to form a production company? And let just tell us about your film, independent documentary film that you produced. Another question that I have is, and I have been wondering about it for so long. We see a lot of documentaries being made in the West, especially when I was in the England. My favorite thing to watch was BBC's documentary. But in Pakistan, there's no such trend. एक तो मैं पढ़ने का शौक नहीं है, and then documentary is a good thing to replicate what you can read in a book. Uh,
Yes.
what are the reasons that we are not into documentary making and viewing? So, what have been the challenges for you, and how would you like to address this issue?
Well, answering your first question, why did I think of founding a company? Me and my best friend Daniel Afzal, who is an excellent and way more experienced filmmaker than I am. Him and I working at PTV at the time, and like I told you, there was a lot of red tape, bureaucratic red tape, in terms of getting approval for projects. And we had ideas that, and him and I are people who we work very fast. You know, give us an approval and we will get that job done as quick as we can. So because we had to wait so long for approvals, the approvals didn't come through for a lot of projects. We decided that we wanted to do work that we are dying to do, but not getting the approval or resources for, and we are willing to do that at our own expense. So that was the reason for founding our production company. And we were able to do a lot of interesting stories, and we learned so much through. We worked on child labor. We worked on the APS attack, a survivor story of that, which Daniel produced and directed. And so many other things that we worked on. We also worked on child sex abuse, a short film. It's called Blue, which also received a very good response. Again, minimal compared to a lot of other things that get more of a response, like viral TikTok videos, which is sad. So you're very right कि Pakistan में unfortunately उस तरह का interest नहीं है documentaries में. And you did say a bit of a sweeping statement that there's no interest in reading. But I feel like I agree with that to a certain extent. I feel like, unfortunately, reading is not as common. We read more tweets and more social media posts than we actually read to educate ourselves thoroughly about the topics that we want to speak about. So that's a problem in and of itself. And I also faced a lot of challenges when I filmed my investigative documentary, which was outside of my production company. That was an independent project that I did, like I said. And with that, because I was looking at systemic failure, and that too in an area that is the home ground for Pakistan People's Party, I received a lot of opposition in terms of how public the documentary could go. And even from international partners and organizations who I raised a lot of the issues that I was able to discover in my findings, they also were very hesitant about taking on those issues. They were hesitant about helping facilitate screenings of my documentary. And in the end, I screened it myself as well at an independent venue because I was facing so many challenges to do that. And that too about an HIV outbreak in children, which is the largest concentration of HIV in children and of HIV/AIDS. So a very scary and unfortunate outbreak that happened in Sindh. So yeah, I faced a lot of challenges with that. And it is sad that, you know, mindless information, mindless posts garner more attention than things that are more meaningful or more educational. So I do hope that in Pakistan, people gain more of an interest in documentaries and in good literature and in reading. That would be best, I think, for us to progress as a society. But you said that there's less documentary making happening in Pakistan, and I would like to address that. There is a lot of documentary making in Pakistan, a lot. Actually, there are very talented filmmakers, and majority of us are working with very little resources and very little funding. Like all of our projects for Arash Visuals, we self-funded ourselves. My independent documentary that I went to Sindh to film, I funded that entirely myself on my savings. I actually blew a hole through all of my savings working on that film, and that's because it's my passion. So all the documentary makers and filmmakers in Pakistan that are currently working right now, majority of those are people that are working on their own finance with a lot of passion, and we deserve the support of the people, and we want people to see our content. We want people to, if not appreciate it, at least give us some critical feedback so that we can better ourselves.
You did news anchoring, you did anchor shows, you did co-hosting with Dr. Saab, and then you ventured into making documentaries. Anything that you still wanted to do with Pakistan media and you didn't get chance to do that?
So yeah, like I said, I was also able to write for papers. I was able to write blogs. I was able to write columns. So that is something I felt like, because my career was so demanding in broadcast. Majority of my career during those 6 years, I have mostly worked 6 to 7 days a week, which can be unsustainable at some point, but I've done it. So with that being said, I wish that I had more time to write more. And I wish I had more opportunities to write more, because there were so many, I mean, the topics and issues and subjects in Pakistan are just countless, right? There's so much we can write about, so many things we can discuss constructively. So I feel like that is something I wish I had done more of. And I don't think my relationship with Pakistani media has ended. I will obviously be looking at more international opportunities in the coming future to widen my scope, but Pakistan is always going to be a foundation and a home base for my journalistic career. And I will always be back, given the story that really drives me to go to Pakistan.
After taking break from national television and venturing into documentary making, you did make a brief comeback, if I may say, with Indus News. How was that experience?
Yes. So Indus News was actually, I would say, my experience with English news media in Pakistan, of the two organizations. Obviously, I owe a lot to PTV. I learned a lot there. I have my roots there in the media. But Indus for me was a very nurturing environment for a very brief period. It only became brief because I got an acceptance from a university that I obviously was waiting for this opportunity. So that was the only reason why I had to make that brief. But I was thriving at Indus News. I was finally able to reach my full potential in this news. I was able to host a few shows there as well. I was working on polishing my skills when it comes to news writing. So there was so much that was happening there, so much that I was doing. So I learned a lot from Sarmad Salik Saab, who has had experience with international media. So that for me was also a very educational experience. And Indus was excellent at the time that I was there, and Sarmad Saab was there. He really kept the organization well, and he maintained a very nurturing environment for male and female colleagues, and a very safe environment as well. Okay, I would say if I weren't working with Dr. Saab, the environment for females in the media can be very toxic. Because I was working with Dr. Saab, who also is a man who keeps a certain decorum in the office. He doesn't differentiate between man and woman like that. For him, it's you are my employee or my colleague. That's the respect that he gives us. So I've been very lucky with those opportunities. I think the environment at PTV was a bit more vulnerable for me. But at Indus, because I had obviously matured over the years, I knew exactly what I wanted to gain from that opportunity. I knew what skills I wanted to work on, and the environment was so good. I was able to really hone my skills there before coming here to Colombia.
You just spoke about the environment and women in media. How challenging it is for a young woman to be in the media, not just young woman, any woman in media. Uh, is the environment supportive for women? Overall, if we see Pakistan, it's not really very supportive when it comes to working women. What are the challenges for women in media, working women in media?
Yeah, so I think obviously it goes without saying, the work environment in Pakistan for women in general, overall, across all industries, is very challenging. Maybe less challenging, obviously, than other neighboring countries, but very challenging nonetheless. And although the media seems like a very liberal industry, and it seems like a very progressive industry, the challenges also are present in the media. And what I was saying earlier, it is a very vulnerable position to be in, a position of authority, but a position also that makes you very vulnerable, not just a male dominant for your work, just for your gender, but also a male dominant industry where you see that majority of the positions are given to males, especially when it comes to hard news, like when you're discussing regional issues, for instance. A lot of those positions are primarily with male journalists, and there are very few female journalists that are allowed to enter within that space. So I think that's one of those challenges that I think women face in the media. And there are countless talented, true journalists in the media that are women and that deserve opportunities as well. So there's that. And also in terms of the work environment, like I said, I've been very lucky for a majority of my career for having a good environment. And it all goes back to the people that I've had as my bosses. They've been very professional individuals. But the environment in the media can also be very toxic for women. I mean, you face harassment in the workplace, you face harassment in the cyberspace. So, I mean, there's a lot of that. And for a woman who is coming on television, right? For us, we are doing our job. We are doing our job as a journalist, or even if you're hosting a morning show, you're doing your job as a host or as an anchor. But people see that as a woman who has loose morals in society, and a woman who they feel they can abuse that position, and they feel that they can get away with so many things. So I think it's a double-edged sword. Even for women who are in positions of authority in the media, it does not make you less vulnerable to the harassment or to the sexism that is prevalent in our society.
Going back to the US and going to the Columbia University, tell us about that journey and why investigative journalism.
So I actually, before Columbia, I had also been accepted into SOAS in London, the School of Oriental and African Studies, and they have a international journalism program as well. They have a few degrees with a journalistic focus. So I'd been accepted into that, and I deferred that, and I was also looking at Columbia at the same time. Again, we're looking at the year where the pandemic was, at its peak. So I was looking and weighing my opportunities. So with Columbia, obviously it is, without a doubt, it is the most prestigious school, not just for all other disciplines, but for me, the deciding factor was journalism school. The journalism school is like the most prestigious institution for journalists. So that was a deciding factor for me. And I was looking at something more specific, which is investigative journalism. And my interest in investigative journalism developed with my document, which I was working on, like I told you earlier, Pakistan Silent Epidemic. That is where I was really able to work on those skills and really hone my journalistic skills. So yeah, so my interest in investigative journalism is where I is what I've developed over the past few years and where I see myself in the future. And I think referring to your previous question also, why I took a break from Dr. Saab, it was to recalibrate and to reconfigure. And this is the conclusion that I came to, is that I see myself more in investigative journalism and in the international space. So that's what led to this decision. And I'm actually starting my semester tomorrow. So yeah.
Well, all the best for your semester and the whole program ahead. Any plans of coming back to Pakistan after your degree? And what are the future plans of Mehr, if we ask?
Well, Meher is always someone who tries to plan 6 months at a time. So right now, I know 9 months I'm booked with my master's. But I don't know what the future has planned for me, and I believe we can make all the plans in the world. But you know, there are so many things that happen. Like 2 years ago, we didn't imagine a pandemic would strike, right? Now, this pandemic affected the launch of my documentary and so many other people's projects and lives and personal lives. So I don't plan too far into the future. I've always been this way. I've always looked at least 6 months to a year at a time. What are my goals for that? Within a year, I do hope that I will be doing more of the work that I enjoy, more of the work that drives me, and more of the work that I'm passionate about. I've realized over the years that more than being in the studio, which I've been in for quite a bit of my career, I prefer being in the field. I think I can do the studio, yes, but I am more cut out naturally to be in the field, to be at the site of the stories that are unfolding. So that is where I see myself, and I will take whatever opportunity that I think fits that standard for me. And in terms of returning to Pakistan, I have family there, I have friends there, I have a network there. I have a base there now over the last 6 years. In fact, coming to the States, although the States is my home, it's my home country as well. And I'm fortunate that I've had a multicultural upbringing. But coming back to the States after 6 years, and this time not to visit or see my friends or family, but this time to move, for me was like a bit of a process of re-immigrating, if I may say so. So it's interesting like that. But yeah, I will definitely be returning to Pakistan to visit or for stories or for work. And Pakistan's my country, it's my birth country, and it will always have a very special place in my heart. And the last 6 years, I've been through a lot, but I've also experienced so much success and so many wonderful opportunities that have been very integral for me, for my growth as a person and as a journalist. So I don't think my love affair with Pakistan has ended, nor ever will.
Working in Pakistan, most of your work has been with the broadcast journalism has been based in Islamabad. Have you got any offers from Lahore, Karachi, or ever thought about moving to those cities for your broadcast journalism work?
Yes, I did. I received quite a few offers in other cities as well. And at that time, I had decided to take a departure from broadcast journalism to focus more on the digital medium and to focus more on the documentary filmmaking medium. So I did receive a lot of those offers, and I did not regret once turning those down. And they were very prestigious and excellent offers for anybody in my field that I turned down, that now I see people in who are thriving in. But again, our journeys are different, and I want something different from my future and from my career. So for me, yes, most of my career has been in Islamabad, but that also coincides with the fact that it is the capital of Pakistan, and the red zone is where majority of the activity is taking place when it comes to governance and politics. So that's more of the reason for that. And there were also some opportunities which, as a media person, outside of journalism, were very attractive. But they weren't attractive to me because I did not want to leave journalism to host an entertainment show, or, there were opportunities more so from the journalistic end, I would say, than there were from the entertainment side. But at the time, my focus was different, and I'm actually glad I stuck true to my path, because I am where I am today because of that, and I'm very content with those decisions. And I think working in Islamabad was a valuable experience for me, because I was, at the scenes of the governance and politics taking place in Pakistan and the region.
Okay, you somewhat have answered my next question. My next question would have been, knowing you would have turned that offer down, but we have seen examples that many of our news anchors and TV program anchors venturing into the entertainment or modeling. Did you get any offer for modeling or acting or any such thing? And
I
knowing,
don't think
yeah,
I've received very lucrative offers for modeling, and that's because I will not give up dessert. So I don't think I have much of a sustainable career in modeling. And in terms of television, yeah, I was offered a film once, a very like casual offer, nothing too formal or contract-wise or anything. But I turned that down as well, because I am someone who has known from the age of 8 that I want to be a journalist. I knew that I want to be in the broadcast space. I knew that simultaneously I also want to do written journalistic work. So I have always been very, very focused. And this goes back to 9/11. When I was 8 years old, 9/11 happened. And I was sitting there as an 8-year-old kid, getting ready for school with my bowl of cereal, trying to quickly have my cereal. And I was watching TV, and my family was shielding me and my siblings from the reality of what was taking place. And it was because it was traumatic and tragic that something like this has taken place in the United States, which has always been considered the most secure and free country of the world, the flag bearer of democracy. To see something like that happen, my family was shielding us from that, and inevitably shielding us from the repercussions that would follow for those of the Muslim faith and for minorities from the East. So that was the moment. And obviously we realized what had happened. It didn't take too long. We had a whole meeting about it in school. They informed us. And I mean, that was a moment that was very pivotal in my childhood. Apart from the death of my father, that was another moment that was very sobering, that I think accelerated the growing up stage in my life, because I was suddenly aware that I have this identity which is being questioned in the media, which is being questioned in the Western world, which has been questioned the world over after a very tragic and disastrous attack on American soil. So that was a moment where I feel like I also grew up. And then, in the aftermath of the 9/11 attack, I spent so much time watching the news, reading the news. So from a young age, I had developed that interest, and I wanted to be there. I wanted to be in that space. I wanted to be someone who is a representative of those communities, and someone who can give a different narrative. Because you see, I mean, you must remember as well, after 9/11, the narrative was very skewed. It was solely from a Western lens, more so, if I may say so. And I think that's changed over the years. We've seen a lot more people of color in the media. We see a lot more people from different backgrounds and different journalistic backgrounds with unique perspectives. So what I mean to say is, from 8 years old onwards, I knew exactly what I wanted to do, which space I want to be in. And I didn't know how I'd get there. There were many times I obviously thought, nahi, ye to nahi hoga, but it worked out for me. So yeah, that's why I never detract from my path, and why I never took other offers. Yes, the money was there. for sure. I would not say that I've earned a lot in my career. A lot of people are under the impression that I've been like just, swimming in cash or something, but I have not. I'm lucky, yes. I come from a privileged family, so I do have a backing. But for the last couple of years, I was living independently and I was supporting myself. And I can tell you there were many challenging months. So, yeah, so I mean, I didn't take those offers because I was never in it for the money. I was never in it for the fame. I was never in it for the reasons that I think take away from the reasons that you should be there. Because when you're not there for the right reasons, then you are irresponsible within that position of authority, right? Then you're spreading false information. Then you're sensationalizing. You're turning people against each other. And that's not a position that I'd ever want to be in. And also, I mean, to be honest, the entertainment space has never been a space I'm interested in. And when I look at it, I also feel very embarrassed. It's better now, but at the time, the programming, the content, I mean, someone could have offered me, 3 million even, okay? And I would not take it. They could offer me anything. They could offer me $1 million and I would not take it because I cannot see myself in that position. I cannot do those things. And it doesn't suit my personality. I'm not naturally built for that subject. So.
You said that at the age of 8, you decided that you want to be into journalism and broadcast journalism. Uh, who has been your inspiration? And if we talk about inspiration, do you have any favorite anchors who you look up to here or in the West?
Yeah, so yeah, I mean, all the anchors in Pakistan, I think, offer unique perspectives. Some of them sometimes stray from those perspectives, so which is very sad to see. But yeah, I mean, there's so many people I've looked up to over the years in media abroad as well. There are people who I think similarly are people of color and people who offer unique perspectives. And of those, I would say Christiane Amanpour at the time. Although she is British Iranian, she was the closest thing to an Eastern face on mainstream media. So her for sure, because she is a remnant of my childhood for me. And also Yalda Hakim on BBC, who's an Afghan Australian. And then there's Rida Fakhri. I believe she's Lebanese, and she works at TRT now. She started her career with Al Jazeera. And there are so many people. I mean, what I'm saying is that at the time, immediately after 9/11 and before that, we didn't see a lot of those faces or those perspectives in the media that we see today. So today, I am very proud of the fact that there are more people that I feel aligned with in international media. So yeah, those are the people that I would say I look up to their journeys. I look up to how they've carved out a niche for themselves, and I'm inspired by how they've gotten to where they are. And I feel their journeys resonate as well.
Any tips or message that you would like to give to the newcomers who want to aspire investigative journalism and broadcast journalism in Pakistan? So, any message you have for them?
Yes. So a lot of people ask me this question, and I actually find myself in a very difficult position to answer that because I would say that I've been very fortunate and very lucky with the opportunities that I have received. And at the same time, I've been very persistent. I'm not someone who gives up easily. And I think that is not only a defining quality of a journalist, but also of anybody who's aspiring to be in a space like this, a very competitive space like this. And in Pakistan, I mean, we have more media channels than we have entertainment channels, right? So that's telling you something. That means that it is overly saturated. So broadcast journalism, I think, has become increasingly difficult over the last few years to get into. But if you want to get into broadcast journalism, you need to create a niche for yourself or an area of expertise. And sadly, over the years, I've also realized that, unfortunately, I know I'm highlighting this at the wrong moment, but there's a lot of sifarish that takes place in the media that I have witnessed take place. People are in positions that they are not truly deserving of when it comes to being put on paper or their qualifications, but they're there because they know someone. For me, that was never the case because I knew nobody. Nobody in my family has been in the media. I come from a family of lawyers, engineers, doctors. I don't come from a media background at all in the least. So for me, it was a new territory to navigate. And yeah, I would say be persistent. I would say make sure that, unlike a lot of the journalists and media personalities we see on screen, make sure you have an education in journalistic ethics so that when you are in that position someday, you can be in that position with objectivity instead of sensationalizing and spinning the news to create a certain sort of controversy in the media and gain popularity through that. So I would say really work on those skills. And I think the most essential skill for broadcast journalism and all other mediums of journalism is honestly written journalism. That is your avenue for any journalism you want to do. For investigative journalism, I would say, even someone like me who had an established career, there were so many things I wanted to do that I was not able to do within the private media space or with an organization like PTV that I had to do independently myself. So I would say, don't give up if you are not getting those opportunities. If it takes for you to do something independently, to carve out an identity for yourself or to do the kind of work that you want to do, go for it and do it. And if in the meantime you are working another 9-to-5 job that is not aligned with that career path, but it puts food on the table, do it and pursue your passion through other avenues. Broadcast journalism is unfortunately very difficult to get in Pakistan, but there's the digital space today, right? The written space has evolved. It's more and more online, so there's so much content you can create for that. You can go the independent avenue and do documentaries or short films on YouTube. We've seen so many incredible journalists who have overpowered the digital space, right? Siddiq John is one such example, someone I'm very inspired by and someone who I think has done a phenomenal job. And again, he has a niche, he has an expertise. His expertise is the courts. So I think the best way is to be persistent, to keep trying to find opportunities, and in the meantime, to create a niche for yourself, a subject area, whether that's the courts, whether that's international news, whether that is local politics. You need to find a niche or a beat for yourself and keep trying and use the available avenues in the meantime to make a name and credibility for yourself.
Okay, to wrap it up, what are your views about MediaSpring? Anything you would like to say to our team?
I would like to thank you guys, first of all, because you have been very supportive of my independent project as well, which a lot of other media organizations have not been. They've only been interested in the glamorous side of things that I have done, mostly on television. So I would like to thank you guys, first of all, for having an incredible platform that not only recognizes the work of more established journalists, but also struggling journalists, and also those journalists who have decided to struggle instead of continuing an established career. So I would like to thank you guys for that, for not being prejudiced in terms of the content that you put out, and for the support that you give media personalities. And I think you're doing an excellent job, and I have been very proud to see the growth your organization has made over the last few years. I remember when you guys started, obviously it started from a base and now it's, here. So mashallah, that's amazing, and congratulations to you and your team, obviously, for working so hard on this.
Thank you so much for your time. It was lovely speaking to you, and I wish you all the best for your time with the Columbia and beyond.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. If you like this video, comment, share, and subscribe to MediaSpringPK.